Penn State's on country roads. The Trojans are in Vegas. And Minnesota's having some company over. Big Ten breakfast. Now served.
Chills. All right, welcome to week 1 of Big Ten breakfast. First and foremost, Ty, you nailed that intro. It was great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. It's week 1. No more week 0. We have a full slate of Big Ten action. I'm Dan. He's Ty. You know all these things already. We have a bunch of big questions we need to get into, so let's just start right now. Ty, week 1, cool, interesting, weird games across the board in the Big Ten. Which team has the opportunity to make, let's call it, the biggest statement in week 1?
I think the easy answer is Penn State. Penn State is on the road against a good West Virginia team. That point spread has bubbled and bobbled a little bit. I'm not sure the betting public knows which way to go on it either. The big question with Penn State this year is, what's the offense going to look like? I have no concern about the defense. I think they'll be able to hold up pretty well against a good ground assault from West Virginia, but new offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, comes up from Kansas. Can he revitalize that Penn State offense, get the most out of Drew Aller, and get the rushing game back on track? Because last year it felt rigid. It felt like there wasn't enough pop. They need to establish themselves right away in order to instill confidence this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. And look, they scored, I think, almost 40 last year against West Virginia at home. But I think and I'll speak for you here, if Penn State's able to go downfield, especially early on in this game, I think that's when you're going to see the Ty Hildenbrandts of this world sort of slink into their couch with a little more comfort, a little more confidence if Drew Aller's able to succeed popping over the top, receivers getting open, right?
Yeah, by the way, receivers getting open, that's kind of the thing.
That's big.
That is the existential question for Penn State football, specifically its offense in 2024.
Yeah, on the road in a tough place. I'm going to go to a game and a team not playing on the road, traditionally speaking, at a tough place, because it's USC taking on LSU in Vegas, NFL Stadium, so maybe a little bit more sterile. But in terms of a statement, what USC could do, especially on defense, if there is a Trojan defense, against what should be another very strong LSU offense, a strong LSU offensive line. So if USC is able to generate a pass rush, if USC is able to make plays in the open field, if USC is able to move to Miller Moss on offense with very few speed bumps, hopefully for the Trojans, a good set of receivers for USC, I think that becomes an interesting statement, because everybody's eyeballs, every college football eyeball anyway, is going to be on Vegas. It's going to be on LSU, USC. It's the only game Sunday night. And so that's an enormous statement from a team out west joining a new conference, right?
Yeah, and look, I think it's really easy to focus in on the defense and say, that's the thing for USC this year, but we can't overlook the Miller Moss thing. He is taking over for Caleb Williams, a generational talent at quarterback. I don't think we can assume it is a like-for-like replacement. It is not a like-for-like replacement. They have got plenty of weapons that Miller Moss can throw to. I have a certain amount of confidence in a Lincoln Riley offense that they will get enough pop, but we cannot just assume it's going to pick up right where they left off.
Let's stick on the topic of new faces. Is there a specific new face, as much as you love to think about Miller Moss, that intrigues you the most this week, beyond this week, player, coach, whoever involved with a specific team?
I mean, it's whoever plays quarterback in Michigan, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I don't care if it's Alex Orji or if it's Davis Warren or if it's some combination of the two. Mm-hmm. Because that's not just a week 1 thing, right? That's a season-long question for Michigan as we look forward into 2024. There are a few basic realities that we need to come to grips with here. A, the schedule's way harder than it was a year ago. B, there's a lot more turnover than there was a year ago. This offense that Sharon Moore wants to run, which is contingent on a really strong offensive line and a really powerful rushing attack, all of that worked last season, not just because of the veteran leadership, but because I think they had J.J. McCarthy. You couldn't key too much on the running game because J.J. could beat you through the air if you really had to. They didn't turn him loose, but if push came to shove and you needed a play from J.J., they could get that. Can you get that from Alex Orji?
Whole season, right? That's Michigan's season. Given their schedule, given Texas week 2. Fresno State's not nothing, by the way.
They're not nothing.
This weekend.
And look, that's not to say that Alex Orji can't throw the football, but it's different when you put him in there to throw as maybe a gimmick as opposed to being the guy.
Yeah, I'm going to stay out west because that's what I do. I'm going to go with Eric Bieniemy. How about that? A huge name from the NFL. coming over a West Coast roots, obviously played at Colorado, coming over as UCLA's new offensive coordinator, post Chip Kelly, with some talent but rebuilding things. I think an interesting matchup week 1 against Hawaii, and gets his shot to have more responsibility on the college level now. He's the guy calling the offense. What can he do without Patrick Mahomes? Has TJ Harden at running back, perhaps an interesting quarterback, perhaps an interesting offensive line. But UCLA, with a new head coach, a new first-time head coach, I don't know, they've got a lot to prove heading into this conference. There's a lot of new faces here for UCLA. And so if they have an inventive offense, if they're able to get loose on the ground, that becomes a more interesting UCLA team in my eyes. So, having that huge name there, sure, that's an answer for me.
Do you think that inventive offense will be simple enough, quick enough to take, given all the other turnover with UCLA? Because there's enough back that I don't think we feel horrible about the continuity, but new coaches, new schemes, things of that nature, it doesn't always set in week 1, right?
It better. You can't lose to Hawaii week 1. Hawaii's already played, so I like that advantage, right? Having a little bit of rhythm to your season. But no, UCLA should have a talent advantage, should have a size and speed advantage that, if it's close or they don't beat Hawaii, even though it's the first game, I don't know, I'm a little worried then.
So look, that UCLA line's about 14 points. UCLA traveling to the islands. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you know this from looking around the Big Ten slate. There are a bunch of games that have monstrous point spreads. So I guess my question to you is, among the teams that figure to be big winners in week 1, what are you looking to see? What will instill some confidence in you?
TVD. How about that? Wisconsin, Western Michigan. TVD is 37 years old. He should have a good handle on this offense, even though he's a first-year quarterback for Wisconsin. But given his successes, long time ago now, but should be healthy. Receivers, we'll see, but there's a couple intriguing guys for Wisconsin. Line should be good in front of him. I don't know. It's sort of put up or shut up at this point for TVD. And so if he can look comfortable in this sort of new look Wisconsin attack, getting away for another year from that power rushing, almost exclusive power rushing attack, I think that's fun. I think that goes a long way for Wisconsin and what their ceiling might be this year. If TVD is just stepping into the pocket, confident, finding guys in stride after, going downhill a little bit. It's a health thing. It's a system thing at Miami, whatever, but fresh start. We got to see fresh new success for TVD. How about that?
I think I speak for the both of us when I say that back in the day, in the halcyon days of Tyler Van Dyke, we bought about 48 million shares. How many of those shares do you still have left in your portfolio?
Not a ton. The stock has gone down, but I'm still willing to believe. I'm still willing to put a down payment down on my beach house via Tyler Van Dyke's success this year.
I still have half of mine left.
Oh no, Ty.
I don't want to give up on this guy, because what we saw, the best version of him, again, back in the day, like it was a decade ago, it feels that way. That version of him was pretty good. That version of him felt like an NFL quarterback. And he has not lived back up to that promise since. So can he get there with Wisconsin, with Phil Longo? New cast of characters around him remains to be seen. But I am not giving up hope at this point. I'm going to go to 0 on this stock if that's what it means.
Who do you have?
It's Dylan Raiola, man.
Okay.
Dylan Raiola. The hype. He is the hype in Lincoln. The 5-star quarterback. The promise of returning Nebraska back to what it once was. He just needs to look comfortable. He looked great in the spring game for whatever that's worth, but figures to be a pretty sizable win for Nebraska in week 1. Dylan Raiola looked the part in the spring game. Dylan Raiola needs to look the part in week 1. Full stop. Needs to show that Nebraska's got more pop at quarterback this year than they had last. By the way, they had none last season, so as long as he's in there and healthy and not throwing a ton of picks, I think it's an immediate upgrade for the Cornhuskers at quarterback.
Yeah, it's UTEP. He should look relatively comfortable, which, by the way, if he throws for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns, he will be anointed emperor of that state. Yeah. He will have a scepter with his visage on it.
Free
That's
Omaha
how it works.
Steaks for life, baby. You know it.
Yeah. Oh, can't wait.
So I think Dylan Raiola coming in and being confident is certainly something that's going to change an opinion about Nebraska football. But who can most change your preseason opinion with a stellar showing in week 1?
How about Michigan State? Michigan State as a 2-touchdown favorite against an FAU team which lost a bunch to the portal. Michigan State obviously going through its own changes, 40 guys out or whatever, bringing in new guys, thin on the defensive line, inexperience on offense, but some interesting guys there on offense. If they're able to just take it to Tom Herman and FAU, if Hayden Childs looks cool and confident in the pocket, whatever, looks like, the future all Big Ten type quarterback with Jonathan Smith, I don't know, beating an FAU team by 17, 3 touchdowns, whatever, I think that would do something for me. Now, the first 2/3 of their schedule is absolutely mind-numbingly brutal. But the back half, if there's some fire there, if there's some electricity, yeah, I can get on board with Michigan State showing some promise in year one. Yeah, how about that?
The thing about Michigan State is, and I know they didn't have a good defense last year, but there's actually a lot back on that side of the ball. And I do sort of trust a guy like Jonathan Smith to come in there and at least get them better organized.
Who do you have?
I've got the Iowa offense, man. It's the most boring answer in the world.
Against Illinois State, to be clear.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Doesn't matter who they play. If they can go out there and score, 38
50.
points?
I want 50 points against
You want the
Illinois
50
State.
burger. I'm not as greedy
burger.
as you.
Okay.
I want 38 points. Give me 38 points with some variability, not running the football every play, some motion, some shotgun, some of these quote-unquote modern things, which aren't really that modern, that Tim Lester is now going to bring to bear in Iowa City. Just give me some of that, man. Let's have Cade McNamara looking better against another team than he did against his own team in a scrimmage a couple weeks ago. Just some bare bones things that we can use to build a foundation and move this offensive unit forward, because they still got the defense, man.
All right, fair enough. Final question here. Who do you think can go the furthest in revealing to, let's say you or the world, their offseason extreme makeover, right? Even though it's just week one, who can dramatically say, here's the new me, Ty?
Minnesota, baby.
Oh, man, I knew you were going to say
Ty Uma. Ty Uma this season. They've got a game at home at night against North Carolina. We looked at the spread a few weeks ago. They were the favorite. The line has moved. Now North Carolina is the road favorite. At home at night, home dog, presumably better offense this year now that they've got a transfer quarterback in Max Brosber, who presumably can throw the football. We're led to believe he can throw the football better than what they had a year ago. He was the leading passer on the FCS level for New Hampshire. I'm talking Daniel Jackson. I'm talking Darius Taylor. I'm talking an offense that I think has pieces, needs someone else to step up to give them a little bit more variability.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if they go out there against a defense like North Carolina, which frankly hasn't done a whole lot the last couple years, if they have a good showing on offense and show that they can move the football vertically at a minimum through the air, that has real impact on this Big Ten season. It truly does. I think Minnesota could be very, very good, but they got to put up or shut up in week one against what should be at least a decent opponent against North Carolina.
I liked all the introductory words you use. Presumably, if I think,
listen,
perhaps...
there are qualifiers. You got to qualify it. Because
it's true.
This is an offense that has not been that great for the last couple seasons. They've been able to run the ball. They've been very close to the line of scrimmage. They need to show they can stretch the field. And yeah, there is a need for a bunch of qualifiers here if we're talking about Minnesota, but I think they've got the ingredients.
Okay. I'm going to stick with a team that's pretty close to me, actually, Northwestern and their own offense, hiring a new offensive coordinator in Zach Lujan, who is 14 and a half years old.
He looks like he's 22 years old. Yeah.
It's tough. He's studying for his driving permit test. But he comes in, national champion, South Dakota State, offensive coordinator, really well regarded for having a quality offensive mind. I want to see something from this Northwestern team because defensively, they should be in a pretty good place. Their defensive line is back. We'll see who ends up getting the majority of those snaps at quarterback, whether it's Jack Lausch, I believe, Mikey Wright coming in from Mississippi State, Vanderbilt guy. I don't know. If we can get creative, if we can run the ball, because I think there are quality skill players on this Northwestern team. Yes, they won a bunch of close games last year, but playing in that weird stadium this year, if they've got kind of a funky offense, I don't know, that'd be very fun for me. And they've got Miami of Ohio, quality MAC defense.
Yeah.
They can win this game. Northwestern didn't blow teams out last year, so Miami's quality. We'll see what happens. Chuck Martin, good coach. I don't know. Northwestern can do a lot for me.
There he is. It's the big guy.
Okay, as you can see, the name of this next segment is Who's Eating? It's quite simple. Who's going to eat? Based on who they're playing, how they're playing, which players, offensive or defense, do you imagine will have spectacular Saturdays?
I got three guys who are going to have full bellies after week one. The first is Curtis Rourke, the transfer quarterback, comes over from Ohio, is now going to be starting for Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. He's got a good receiving core around him, and I think he's got NFL potential. So it wouldn't surprise me against FIU if he just lays the wood. FIU did not play defense last year. This is a good spot for Curtis Rourke to go out there and make an impact in week one. Second is Kyle Monangai. It kind of goes without saying if you followed anything on the Rutgers front, but he is the engine that makes this offense work. He's going to get a ton of action on the ground this year. Week one against Howard, I think he's going to have ample opportunity to show what he can do. So he will eat well. And my last guy is Will Rogers, new starting quarterback, Washington Huskies, newcomer to the Big Ten, by the way. We didn't talk about them at all.
Take that, Weber State, by the way. Will Rogers is coming. Yeah.
Take that, Weber State. I like the offense that he's in.
Okay.
I like the offense that he's in. I think it's simple at its core. Even though it's going to look complex, there might be motion, there might be a bunch going on, but Will Rogers is well-suited to run this offense, well-suited to hit the ground running for Jed Fish in his first year in Seattle. So those are my three. How about you?
All right, number one, I'm going to go Ty Felton, Maryland, taking on UConn in an Edsel Bowl, but Ty Felton steps into that number one receiver role. They used him a bunch of ways last year in the slot, running slants, screen game, downfield. I just think this year, even with a new quarterback, it's going to be a pass-happy system, and he is going to get his, especially against UConn, and sort of keep that long line of Maryland receiving success going. Number two, Dante Moore, Oregon, backup quarterback.
Is he going to play?
The backup quarterback, because if Oregon is blowing out teams like many people expect them to do, he is going to get work. He is the heir apparent to Dillon Gabriel in this offense next year and beyond, or if Dillon Gabriel goes down this year, we'll see what happens. Dante Moore is going to have the opportunity, even if Oregon's up 49-7, they're going to keep throwing because they want him to get reps. So Dante Moore there. And then my third pick is Caden Fegan. And yes, Illinois is playing nobody. But I'm excited for this Illinois offense. They weren't able to do much last year, especially on the ground. You know, Brett Bielema wants to. Caden Fegan is like 6'3", 250.
He's a big dude, man. He's really big.
This is the ideal for a Brett Bielema offense. And so he is going to be quite fun to watch. Had an interesting freshman year last year, intriguing freshman year. I think this is sort of day one, step one of a growth season for him because Lord knows he's already done enough growing at that size. Those are my eaters.
Bumper sticker, feeding Caden Fegan.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
You're in no position to challenge my expertise.
All right, Dan, let's close this meal out by talking about the 5 biggest Big Ten games this weekend. Who you got?
Okay, let's start with Thursday night. I'm going to take Minnesota +2 against North Carolina. I love a home dog in week one when everybody's sort of uncertain about everything. I know North Carolina won this game last year. No Drake May. Still questions about the defense. Now a new defensive coordinator. I like the continuity on both sides of the ball for Minnesota. I have no idea what to expect out of their quarterback, but I'm going with the home dog here.
Hey, you know where I stand. Tayuma, right? Minnesota +2 for me. I am also on Penn State -8.
Ooh.
On the road against West Virginia. I don't like this spot for Penn State at all, and the line has come down. Okay, so there's a reason to be a little bit skeptical, but I do think when push comes to shove, the Penn State defense, and especially their ability to contain West Virginia's ground game, will be enough to give them that separation. I am expecting at least a little bit more pop on offense with the new system that they're going to run in State College this year. So, no, it's a road game. Not crazy about the spot. I think Penn State wins this game -8.
Yeah, I think so too. I think both sides of the ball are going to be interesting to watch. 2 new coordinators, right? Andy Kotelnicki, did I get that right? Kotelnicki, there we go. And Tom Allen running Penn State defense. Ultimately, I think it's going to be close, and I don't know if it's a little bit of a backdoor cover or something like that for Penn State late, but I do like the Nits on the road. Ugh, that's a tough environment, though.
I don't like it. It's a Gus game and a Joel Klatt game, right?
Yeah. All right, Ty, next, not so close of a line. Michigan -3 touchdowns, 21-point line. We'll see how quarterback play goes, but taking on Fresno State, who themselves have a lot of questions now that there's an interim head coach, Jeff Tedford, stepping away. What do you got?
My question coming into this game is if Michigan could cover this point spread without playing a quarterback.
Man.
Do they need a quarterback to
That's
cover
so
the spread?
mean, Ty.
Listen, what was mean last year was Fresno State's defense.
Yeah.
It was terrible. They didn't play any defense a year ago. They need to improve. They have a lot to solve on their end, not the least of which is a late coaching change, which I don't think makes this situation easier for the Bulldogs having to go into Ann Arbor and Michigan Stadium. So I'm on Michigan minus whatever, even though I have real questions about their own quarterback situation and what that means against a tougher schedule moving forward.
Yeah, eventually this is going to be a crockpot type game. I think Michigan's going to sit on Fresno. They still have Donovan Edwards. They still have Colston Loveland. They still have a just ridiculous defense. It's looking to be a ridiculous defense. So I think it's going to be a nice alley-oop game that the defense really does help out the offense, wearing down Fresno and get a final score of 42-13. All right, let's round it out with a couple games featuring teams out west. USC Dogs, 4.5-point dogs to LSU in Vegas Sunday night. And we also have UCLA as favorites, 14-point favorites against Hawaii on the road. So both these teams away from home. Who do you have in these two?
I'm on LSU here, Dan.
Okay.
I got to be real. For as much as I do think USC will be better on defense, I got to see it to believe it. I just got to see it to believe it. And that's not to say that LSU doesn't have its own warts on defense. Okay, this is a common theme between these two teams. Bad defenses, new coordinators coming into 2024. I get all that, but I just feel like Brian Kelly's a better coach. I feel like there are more known quantities on that LSU offense, which replaces a lot in its own right.
Yep.
But I feel better about their offense coming into this game in what could end up being a shootout in Vegas. I want LSU. I want the SEC team.
You have a favorite Brian Kelly LSU season opening win? Is there so many to choose from? You're like, man, I just feel that vibe again.
I know.
Hasn't won an opener yet. And Lincoln Riley does nothing but beat like San Jose State in the openers for USC. I'm going USC here. This is as deep. Listen to me.
You're a Southern California shill is what you are.
Yeah, that's exactly what I am. I'm Mr. USC. That's my reputation. I think the Trojans are going to be a little bit mysterious on defense, like perhaps LSU is going to be. I think there is something about the receivers for USC. I think there is something about the talent upgrades on defense for the Trojans that it's got to improve, right? It's got to improve. Just no Alex Grinch, no weird system that the players couldn't run last year. I think there's going to be better effort. There's better defensive assistant coaches for the Trojans. And so I think they're going to come out on fire and sneak away with a win.
This is USC's defense. It's got to improve part like 17. We say that every year.
I didn't say to what. Just improvement, incremental improvement against an LSU defense that has its own questions. Lincoln Riley's been game planning all summer long for this one. While he wasn't trying to get out of this one.
When he wasn't trying to run away from the game,
right.
He's been game planning for it, sure.
Yeah.
I've also got Hawaii plus the 14 at home against UCLA.
Okay.
So this is not me purposely trying to slight the state of California college football. But
that's what it sounds like to me.
Hawaii played a game already. It was not super impressive against Delaware State, but whatever. They got it out of the way. UCLA, I just think, has a lot of questions. There's a fair amount back, but the turnover with the coaching staff, traveling to the islands, they're going to win the game. I just don't know if they're going to cover the point spread. So I can see them winning by like 10-13, but 14, the whole 2-touchdown thing from a point spread standpoint kind of skews me out.
I don't know. You got to like Hawaii a little bit more than you do. I'm saying like they weren't good against Delaware State, but here come the Warriors, right? That's a tough sell to me.
I do think Hawaii will be better this season.
Okay.
Than they were a year ago. I do think there will be real improvement this year under Timmy Chang, but fair point. It's a fair point. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can say it's, too early to be that confident in a new UCLA team, new head coach, new everything. I'm still going to go with that. I still think there's enough pop on this offense. I still think there are enough playmakers on this defense, even though they're starting over on both sides. There's still continuity from the last staff. I'm going to go with UCLA to win this game by 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
And finally, to bring this full circle, we started with you talking about Penn State. I'm going to let you finish talking about Penn State. And we are featuring, correct me if I'm wrong, the Corner Room, our breakfast of the week.
Yeah.
The Corner Room in State College. We are pro breakfast because on the name of the show is Big Ten Breakfast.
It's a show, right? It's got to be.
Corner Room looks incredible. They're not paying us to say that. I will happily go to the Corner Room and have them give me a feast. But what's the order at the Corner Room? What's the story?
Well, my order is the Forager, which is like a mushroom and cheese omelet. But the bigger story of the Corner Room is that it's kind of like a landmark in downtown State College. It's the epicenter where College Avenue meets Allen Street. It is certainly one of those places that you see on TV when they're driving through the town and there's a big game at Beaver Stadium and they're trying to show the ambiance around campus and around the town. You got to go to the Corner Room if you are in State College. It's one of those places that you got to experience and you got to say you were there. So for me, it's the mushroom and cheese omelet. You looked at the menu because you always look at the menu. What is your order for the next time you're in State College?
I'm going cowboy breakfast. It's like a sausage and potato skillet type situation. It's calling my name. I'm probably getting dessert too. They have some sort of like apple crumble skillet. There's something called a grilled sticky, which appears to be like a State College unique treat. I'm just in on the Corner Room.
Next time you're in town, we got to go. We'll go next time you're here. It's great.
We're loading up on grilled stickies. Oh, I can't wait. And by the way, you loaded up on Big Ten if you watched this entire episode. Thank you very much for watching Big Ten Breakfast. I am Dan. He is Ty. We're here each and every Friday morning live on the Solid Verbal YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching. Enjoy the weekend. Week 1.
Eat up.